Hello friends! Today I'm going to be putting together 2 pages from my December daily album, and I chose 2 days that are more winter themed. We have this one documenting this extreme cold winter weather that, yes, it is Fahrenheit, and then I have a winter party that my kids went to at their school. Now this is actually from last year. I have just a few more pages to finish up from last year's album, and I've only done 1 page from this year's, but I really want to finish last year's before I get going on this year's. So trying to fit this in before Christmas. I am going to use the Gnomes for Winter collection because I've been dying to use this adorable collection. Let me get these photos out of the way so I can show you. This sticker sheet is so cute. So I'm going to use some of the stickers, probably not a lot of them, but some of them. And then there are these adorable papers, which you can see are very winter themed. One side of this paper has gnomes on it, the other doesn't, and then the others are just really cute winter themed or winter colored patterns. And then there's also this stamp set, which comes with some coordinating thin cuts. I'm definitely going to be using this Winter is Here title for that one with the extreme cold weather. And then I also have some of these acrylic shapes. I think I actually have like 1.5 packages in this one package because I got a couple packages. Now there's also this thin cut set that's adorable that comes with this collection. It's too big to use on these pages, but just wanted to show you. So if you are doing 12 by 12 or some larger scale stuff, that is available as well. And to help me put these pages together, I have got out the 6x8 sketchbook from the creative design team. This is full of 46 6x8 sketches, and this is volume 2. We have a volume 1 as well. So if you need help with those 6x8 pages, this is a super big time saver. I have already chosen my sketches, so I'll be using this one here, which I also used in as inspiration for a 12 by 12 layout recently. So I'll link to that video down below so you can see how I stretched this for a 12 by 12 layout. And then I've also chosen this sketch here, but I am going to flip it and reverse it because of the side of the page that it's on. I wanted this to be on the outside page, just the way it falls in my book. So those are what I'm going to be referring to for my layout. So let's dive in. I'm going to go ahead and grab my Versamat. I like to work on this even with smaller sizes just because it does help me to line things up. And I have already cut my pieces according to the sketch. And I've mounted my photos. I cut these a little bit smaller than 3x3. Actually, this one's a little bit taller than 3 inches, but I just cut the mat custom to my photo sizes. And I'm thinking that it's going to go something like this, just like the sketch. But I wasn't sure about the paper, so I cut both of these, and I think I like this one better because this one, when the photo is down, you don't see a ton of the blue. You don't like, it's just uneven on each side. That's just the nature of having stripes like that. So I think I like that better. I put the darkest one with the most blue at the bottom. Actually, this one is even darker, because the visual weight of it, I thought I wanted at the bottom. Yeah, I like all of the icons, the busier pattern at the bottom. Because this photo is busier with all the branches in the tree, there's not a whole lot of color and stuff on that one. So I like that the busier pattern is down here, opposite of the busier photo. And then I cut this from one of my dies because I thought I could kind of tuck this here. If you look at the sketch, the title is just right here, and it's up to you how you want to do that. If you want it to be on another piece, like I'm going to do here, I'll stamp it on here. Or if you're just using letters, you could just put them right on the background. But I think I'm going to stamp my background on there. So let me get this out of the way. And I might even want a matte. I could do a little inking around the edges of my white mat, but I think I want just a really skinny Sapphire mat. Now I did the back of Sapphire, and so I'm thinking I do like that, and I'll probably ink around the edges of all of my pieces just to give them a little more definition. I actually have an idea for an embossing folder. I have this snowflakes embossing folder, and I thought it would be fun to add some more texture up here. Now I can't easily add texture to the whole background because the 6x8 is larger than my 5x7 embossing folder, but I could just add it to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'll just run this piece through my embossing folder and I'll be right back. All right, let's see how this looks. Oh, I really like that. I like the texture that it adds, so I'll just kind of tuck it behind this one here. I can even cut a little bit of that off, probably 1/2 inch or so, that I can use on a card so I can save that. Or bring it down here. I could do a separate piece that's going to be hiding here, so I have embossing back here. I think I'm going to do that. All right, so I had this scrap, and I think between this scrap and what I can cut from behind here, I can fill these little gaps right here. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so let me set these aside, and I am going to ink around the edges of my papers. Probably not this one. All right, so I've got Sapphire ink, and I'm just going to do a really light inking around the edges of these papers. Now you can use an ink blending tool, you can go direct to paper. They both just give slightly different results. This gives a little bit of a softer look. And since I'm using the light side of Sapphire, that's why I decided to do that. And also the Sapphire and the blue that are in here are pretty light. I don't have a lot of the dark Sapphire, so I want to give these a little bit of a softer look.
Now that I have all of those inked, I'm going to start gluing everything down. I don't typically show this part, but I wanted to just show you how I was getting all of these background pieces and then the pieces on top of them without having the whole background embossed. So I have the bottom piece. I used about 1/2 inch that I cut off of that top strip that I originally embossed. And then I'm going to line this up here on my Versamat to make sure that I get everything really straight. I'll hold up the patterned paper so then I know where that embossed piece needs to go, and I'll line it up, and then I will add my patterned paper on top of that. So I'll just continue doing that all the way up. It didn't take too long. I did want to mention that you might want to use a little bit of extra adhesive, maybe a little more than you normally do for the embossed pieces, because they do warp just slightly after you run them through the embossing folder. And so I added just a little bit more than I would have if I just had patterned paper. Another thing that would have been really fun to do with the embossed pieces is to lightly swipe your ink pad over it to give just the raised pieces a little bit of color. That would define that embossing a little bit more, but in my case, I just wanted to have it be a subtle textured background. Now it's time for the stamping. I'm going to choose my stamps. I know that I want that title, but there are some other stamps in this stamp set that I'm thinking about using, like the snowman. So I'm going to pull the die out for the snowman. And then while I had that out, I was thinking, oh, that tree might be kind of cute too. I wasn't originally planning to use it, but then I really like how it ended up turning out. One of the really handy things about this Versamat is that it's spongy on the back for stamping. Now you could use that little piece of foam that comes with every stamp set that you just saw me put down, but when you're doing a lot of stamping, it's really nice to have the Versamat as an option. Now for my title, it doesn't matter so much because I'm using my Misty, because I wanted to be able to stamp it twice, and you'll see why in just a moment. There are a couple of stamping techniques that I wanted to try that give a softer look than just simply stamping with the Sapphire ink. So I haven't used this yet, so I am seasoning it with my finger, just kind of rubbing all over it. And now I'm going to test this first on scrap paper. I am taking my sponge and I'm sponging the ink onto the stamp, and that's going to give a lighter impression. I've done this in a previous video slightly different, so I'll link that down below if you want to check that out. But look at how light that looks. It looks really good. And now I'm going to try out a second way to make it a little lighter. I went straight to the stamp, but then I'm going to dab my foam on it to kind of soften it. And let's see how that looks. And then we'll decide what we want for the title. This is a little bit too dark for what I want. So I am going to go with the first version. I've already stamped it once and I wanted to give it one more stamp so it's just a little bit more solid, a little bit darker, but it's still much lighter than just stamping it normally or that second option that I did. So I really like that. And now we're going to move on to our little snowman and the tree. Now I'm stamping this in intense black ink. That's what you want to use when you're going to color with alcohol markers. The intense black, a lot of times I typically do put it in my MISTI because it doesn't stamp super dark, but I didn't want this to be super dark because I don't have any black on my page. It's all navy. So by stamping it just once without the MISTI, it gave it almost a charcoal look. And then I did want to have a lighter look on these trees, so I took my Jade ink and my pine ink, and I'm going to do the same technique with those with a little sponge dauber. This is the same thing, it's just a different kind of sponge. I wanted to color my little snowman, so I'm matching the colors. I'm holding up the trees to match the green, and then I'm trying to match the blue here, and I'm choosing my markers accordingly. This is the ice gray shades, I believe, to make his hat a dark gray, almost black. And then for the blue, I ended up using the true blue shades, the mid and the dark tones. And then for the green, I'm using the light green marker, but just the dark end. So the tri-blend markers have 3 colors in one, which I love. But this one in particular, the shades are all quite different. Whereas with the blue, they're not super different. So I used a couple of colors for shading. The green, I just didn't worry about shading and I just did the dark end, but trying to do a little shading with the blue. It's very easy. I sped this up a lot, but you can just see how I'm quickly coloring this to give it a little bit of life. Now I used the light gray just to add some shading, and then I'm blending it out with a colorless blender just to soften that. I'm using the burnt orange to give him a little carrot nose, and then the tan shades for his little arms. I didn't want to color the trees with the alcohol markers, which is why I just stamped them in green, but I decided to give them a little bit of shimmer with my clear shimmer brush. It's really hard to catch this on camera. You probably won't be able to see it, but it adds a really nice shimmer. And then by going over it with that wet brush, it also kind of bleeds the ink a little bit. And I kind of like the look of that to spread the green just a little bit on those trees since they're not colored in. I decided to add some shimmer brush to that snowman after I cut him out too. So now I'm going to start assembling. You saw I cut down my title so I can save the other third or so for another project. I'm going to add this little snowman down here, which is where the embellishment cluster was called for in the sketch. And I think that this looks really cute. A lot of times I fuss with my embellishments a lot, and you'll see me fuss with these snowflakes a lot. But that snowman and those trees, I liked those as soon as I put them down in that corner. So these snowflakes come in several different sizes and a few different designs, and I'm just gonna audition them around the page until I'm happy with where they turn out. I'm trying to put them in some spots that are a little bit blank. The white wasn't showing up a lot, so I decided to pull out these blue ones that were from last year's winter collection. I don't think I even used any of them, or I used very few of them, so I wanted to try to use them here. But spoiler alert, they don't actually end up making it on the page. I end up liking just the white ones, but I'll play with it a little bit here until I come to that realization. So I was trying to put the snowflakes kind of in areas that were blank, like down there on the right, and also form a visual triangle. I wanted them kind of spread around the page evenly. So I did cut a lot of that out, but wanted to show you some of that process. I found this sticker that says "Let It Snow" that I thought was very appropriate, so just gonna kind of move it around the page and try to find a spot that works. I'm gonna set that aside for now, and it'll come back and make it on the page. And then let's see what else I have here. There's some snowflakes on here. There's a few different ones. I like these banners too. I'm thinking that these banners could go up here in the corner, and I'm liking that, so I'm going to go ahead and commit. I had to get right over the page, so I cut out those parts where my head was in the way, thinking maybe that could go up there, but it was too big. It covered too much of the banners, and I am liking it right here. So keep playing with those snowflakes. I'm going to add a couple of small ones up there by the banner. And now I realize I definitely don't want those blue ones. And I'm going to try to work in some of these stickers. This round one, I'm thinking I could use kind of as a tab. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll cut it in half and then I can use it kind of sticking out somewhere. And then I thought, well, maybe it could be an anchor for the snowman, but then it covered up too much of the snowflake. So I moved on to this smaller snowflake sticker, and I liked it tucked up there by the banner, and I liked this one tucked up by the banner. And then I'm going to fuss around with these little acrylic snowflakes some more until I'm happy with the placement. And then I'm going to come back to this circular snowflake and thought I'm going to put it right up here in the corner of the title. And I'm happy with how everything looks now. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my title down, and then I'll start gluing all of the other pieces as well. For the snowflakes, I found that it works really well to use these micro glue dots. You can also use liquid glue. Sometimes I'll use my Barely Art glue, which holds well also, but I didn't want to have to wait for that to dry for these. So I'm using these micro glue dots, and those hold them in place really nicely. As a finishing touch, I'm adding a little bit of stickles to the bottom of the snowman, and then we'll call this page done. Although later on I realize it's not quite done, so we'll come back to it. But here is how that looked. And now let's move on to number 2.
Okay, on to number 2. I've already cut my background pieces, and like I said, I'm reversing this because this is going to be on the left side. So I wanted to have this over on the left. And then I have 5 photos that I've printed to 2 by 2. If you don't know how to print photos at smaller sizes, I have several videos showing how, and I will link those down in the description box below. Just hit see more under the description or under the title of this video. All right, so I really like this background here. I'm thinking that this might need to be a little bit darker. Let's try this. I actually like that. I wasn't sure I wanted it to be this dark, but I really like that. And now this white is popping off of there a little bit more. And if you look over here, there's another like zip strip right here. So I could cut that. All right, I also have a zip strip, but I think that might be too much blue. It doesn't really do anything. Maybe, we'll see. Or I have this. Or I could just not even do that strip. You don't have to do it just because it's there. I think I'm gonna take my Sapphire and just brush around the edges. I want it to be even more subtle than the last layout. So this is gonna be darker, but it's gonna be skinnier. And basically I'm just very lightly brushing the edge just to dye the very edge of our paper. And that just gives it just a teeny tiny bit more pop. I do almost always map my photos on white because most of the time I just feel like that is what makes it pop off the paper more, especially when you have a lot of color or darker colors in the background. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this to all of my photos. All right, so I've got all of those inked, and I have all of these photos of my son on this side because he's looking that way in all the photos, and I like that he's looking into the page. And if I were to put him over here, he's kind of looking off the page. But you know, sometimes it works out that way, sometimes it doesn't. I just want to try something. If instead of having this white on the edge, if I have this pattern, let me see how I like that. I actually kind of do like that. I was thinking I would want the white because we have so much pattern going on here, but you know, I could put a really skinny torn piece of white just to kind of add a buffer, or maybe sapphire. And this actually, since I moved this up a tiny bit, I can use this little scrap I already had cut, and I can use just another little scrap to cover this corner, and we can just use our scraps here. I have another strip here, so I am just going to cut a little piece. I was strategically trying to get that chili, so I might have to, I can trim it off the bottom later. I can place it in there where I want. and glue it in place, and I can trim the side and the bottom when I'm ready. So I like that. So on the sticker sheet, there's this sticker here for the good times. And they were at a little school function. It was called Snow Night at their school, where they decorated cookies and did a scavenger hunt and had hot cocoa. So I thought that this would be fun, but it's really big. So I'm going to see if I can make that work. And then we also have this hot cocoa here. I don't have any other brown in the page, so I might try to add some more brown, but that's just too perfect not to use. I have this little piece right here that could introduce brown, and then I have this that I might add some journaling on. Maybe that could be my little journaling spot somehow. So I'll just kind of put these pieces aside. All right, so I tore a strip down the center, and I didn't know if I wanted this side. So when you tear it like this, you tear the right side toward you, you can see the torn edge on this side, and then you don't see the torn edge on this side. Or, of course, you could use the other sides too. So I'm gonna see what that looks like, just having a little edge here. And then let me try it in Sapphire. I actually really like that. And then this is the light side of Sapphire. Let me see if I like that better. Just having a teeny bit stick out. I think it's too much because it's a lot darker than this. I don't really like it. But what I might do is, where did the other one go? Here. I might take my Sapphire, let me try it on this scrap piece that I'm not using, and just kind of lightly brush it. That gives a dark, let me try it with this. I might like that better, but on a torn edge, because this gives a little bit lighter look. Even though we have the darker around these edges, it's so subtle that you can't tell how dark it is. And then I can do that to this edge too. I think I like that. So I think I'm gonna put just a little bit of ink on this edge and this edge.
So I'm going just very lightly, a very light hand, just on the very edges like I did on my photo mats. And I am getting a little bit of smudges on there, but it's okay because it's going to be tucked underneath that other paper. And then I want to try this out. I'm going to be careful because it's still a little bit wet. And I do like that. And then that other little piece will just stick under there and look really cute. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this larger piece.
Okay, so I have my background glued down. I'm not quite sure about the photos yet because I want to try to fit this, although it's really big. This is where the journaling was supposed to go, but I think that this would be a really cute title. There's like all this white space here though, and I'm trying to figure out how to kind of hide that. What if I move that there? Okay, so I told you sometimes it just doesn't work out to have your photos where they're not looking off. He's more looking down, so I feel like having this one here is not as, you know, worrisome, if you will, for me to have on this side. But I do like this on the right side because then I can stick it down and I can kind of cut off. Let's see if I tilt it. I don't know. I don't want this to go off the edge, so I'll have to kind of strategically do that. I think I'm going to take the stick off this so that I can work with it a little easier. So you guys have probably seen me do this before. Sometimes I do it off camera, but this is a powder bag. It's filled with like baby powder or something like that, and it's designed to prevent static when you do heat embossing, but it's also really good for taking the stick off your stickers. And I just keep it in one of these little craft jars, and now there's a little bit of stick to it, but it's not gonna like stick down for good, so I can have a little wiggle room to play with this. I think I'll just have it overlapping because we're not covering a whole lot here on the photo, and I'll move it in just enough so that this title doesn't get cut off. So we'll move it in a little bit like that. And then I'm going to take the stick off of this one too. And I'm thinking this can go right under here, but I don't want it to be a tag. So I am just gonna simply snip that off. And now it's just like a little word phrase like we see in a lot of sticker sheets. I don't have to use it as a tag, so I can kind of overlap it here. And we have a little brown here, so now we've got it pulled up here. We have this little guy and we have this guy. I was thinking this could maybe go up here, but it's wider than the photo, so I'm not sure I like that. But we have this, and if I take the stick off of that, then I can play with it a little bit. If I have that like over here, maybe like this, then it can be my little journaling box. I don't have a lot to say, so I think that could work. So we have like our visual triangle. I like to have 3 points of a color because that visual triangle really helps to draw your eye around the page, and it's very pleasing to the eye. I also have a bunch of these sprigs from the Evergreen scrapbooking workshop. I used a bunch of these in a couple of layouts that I did recently, and could maybe have this one come out more like this, and this one more straight up so that it doesn't go off the page. I think that could be cute. And maybe some of these snowflakes that we used in the last layout. I really like these snowflakes. I don't think I need a lot because I already have a lot going on. Maybe just one to kind of cover up that hole. I'm not sure I even want more than that. We have a lot of space down here, but I think that's okay. Let me see.
I do think I'm liking it. I'm going to go ahead and commit and glue all this down.
I totally forgot about the numbers on these, and these are the numbers I've been using throughout my album. They've worked for every page, but I just really don't like them on here. I don't like the black because I don't have any black on here, and I don't really like the gold. I like silver with more wintry layouts. So I pulled out some stickers, and I'm okay that just these couple of pages don't match the rest of them. So I'm not sure if I want these bigger ones for day 15. Oh, I think that'll look good right there. And they stand out on that dark blue. That looks really, really cute. These have been in my stash forever. I think these are actually close to my heart from forever ago. All right, so let's see what I want over here. This is day 22. Do I want the same ones? I do have 2 2s, but where that could go up here. I'm not sure I have enough room. I might want to use the smaller 2s. Those fit better, and they don't stand out as much, but I like them. We're gonna know what day it is because obviously it's gonna go between 21 and 23. It's chronological in the album, so I think I like that. Looks like I might have gotten it a little bit crooked, so I will fix that.
So here are my finished pages for today. I will have still shots of these over on Instagram and Facebook, so you can go check those out. All of the links to my social media are down below. I also have all the supplies I used linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I post lots of scrapbooking ideas, mostly 12 by 12, but also some 6 by 8 and 8.5 by 11. And on the screen is another December daily video that I think you might enjoy. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.